So, ladies and gentlemen, as you heard in the introduction, we do in fact have Steve Horn on the show today to talk about the latest environmental disaster in North Dakota. But unfortunately, folks, that's not the only environmental disaster we have to talk about. In fact, we have yet another one that happened just this last week, this one in the state of West Virginia. So here's what happened. On Thursday, there was a massive chemical spill, chemical leak from a storage facility owned by a group known as Freedom Industries. Sounds like a nice company, right? Everyone loves freedom. Everyone loves industries. Well, Freedom Industries has this storage facility, and some 7,500 gallons of chemicals leaked into the Elk River. The Elk River leads into an intake of the state's largest water utility, which is West Virginia American Water. So as a result of this spill, going to the beginning of this week, reading from Think Progress, quote, an estimated 300,000 residents of 9 counties in West Virginia were told they could not use or drink their tap water. The spill prompted Governor Earl Ray Tomblin to declare a state of emergency, end quote. So not only are they not supposed to drink the tap water, they're not allowed to bathe with it or shower with it or cook with it or use it, pardon me, for anything other than flushing the toilet. That is it. That's all they're allowed to do with the water, or supposed to do with the water. 300,000 people without water for days. This has been going on since Thursday and all the way through Monday. Still no water. So not only that, reading from the Wall Street Journal, quote, as of Monday, 10 people had been admitted to hospitals and another 169 treated and released for problems that appeared linked to the spill, according to the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources, which said hundreds more had called the Poison Control Center, end quote. So that's a lot of people, and so far to this moment, thankfully no one has died, and it appears that limited exposure to the chemical is not fatal. However, the National Library of Medicine says exposure to the chemical, which is 4-methylcyclohexane, methanol is what it's called, can cause headaches, irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat, and it also can cause skin rashes. The chemical is apparently used to treat coal before you burn it. That's what it's supposedly used for, which is funny because I thought coal was supposed to be clean. Why do you have to treat coal if it's clean? You shouldn't have to treat it if it's clean for us to burn. Well, anyway, so this is a chemical used in the coal industry. So let's talk about what actually happened with the leak and the spill. So, according to the AP, one of the Freedom Industry tanks, one of supposedly over 40,000 that are at that site, sprung a leak and it drained into the Elk River, as we said. Reading on from the AP quote, there are signs that the Freedom Industries did not respond appropriately. A state law requires immediate reporting, but Huffman said state environmental workers were on the spill site at 11:15 a.m. Thursday because of a call from the water company, not Freedom Industries, end quote. Well, that sounds bad. Sure, that sounds bad, and it sounds like Freedom Industries was trying not to report it, but maybe, let's look at it this way. Maybe Freedom Industries were using their freedom to not call and report a spill. Maybe Freedom Industries were using their freedom to pollute however much they want. Maybe they were using their freedom to dump as much chemicals as they want. Their freedom to not incriminate themselves in a massive spill. Did you ever think of that? That might be what they were doing. Anyway, how massive is this spill? How massive actually is this spill? Well, we told you that 300,000 people are without water. Schools and businesses and entire towns in West Virginia were shut down. Think Progress reports that Jeff McIntyre, who is president of the water utility, said, quote, the entire water system will have to be flushed and tested, and though the Elk River was the water source immediately impacted by the spill, that the spill impacts the entire distribution of the water system, sending water to a total of 1,500 miles in the area. End quote. 1,500 miles. 300,000 people from one chemical spill. That's how fragile our system is, folks. And that's how dangerous these chemicals can be. And not only that, it actually turns out that the utility that handled this, their hands aren't entirely clean in this either. They actually handled this not very well. Reading again from Think Progress, quote, though the spill occurred Thursday morning, West Virginia American Water didn't provide its customers with a warning until evening, and as Al Jazeera reported, several were angered by the lack of information, particularly regarding what should be done if they had already used or ingested water, end quote. So that's pretty messed up, right? That's pretty horrible. And you know, so you have this company that doesn't report the spill. You do actually have the water company going to find it, but then not actually telling their customers to stop using it. But here's where the story actually gets even more messed up, if you can believe that. So you see, Freedom Industries isn't a chemical company. They're a chemical storage company. They're a storage company. And reading from the New York Times, quote, according to the Department of Environmental Protection officials, Freedom Industries, which owns the chemical tank that ruptured, is exempt from Department of Environmental Protection inspections and permitting since it stores chemicals and does not produce them, end quote. Well, isn't that bloody brilliant? Isn't that great? Producing of chemicals is regulated, but storing chemicals is not regulated? It's reportedly been 20 years since even the state environmental officials have been at the storage site. 20 bloody years! And it's not just that, folks. It's not just that. It's not just the ridiculousness of somehow that the storage of dangerous chemicals is not regulated and checked to make sure that that's insane. But it's not just that. The truth is, there's actually not a lot known about the actual chemical. I gave you the full name earlier. It's actually known, abbreviated as MCHM. So there's not a lot known about MCHM and its effects on people and water. Why is that? Why is this chemical so secret? Because actually the truth is the water company wasn't entirely sure what to do when it actually got leaked into the river because they actually didn't know how to treat it. It turns out that you actually can't filter it out. It actually floats on the surface, and so it floats on the surface and dilutes, so you actually can't filter it out. You pretty much have to let it run through the whole thing. That's why it's taking days and days and days to eventually clean out the entire treatment facility on this entire cycle. That's that because this chemical. But the thing is, they didn't know that initially because they didn't know what the chemical was initially. And the reason they don't know about the chemical, why is that? Well, Chris Moody at Mother Jones actually writes, quote, all of this traces back to a 1976 Toxic Substances Control Act, or TSCA, the law under which the Environmental Protection Agency regulates the production of chemicals. According to EPA spokeswoman Alicia Johnson, MCHM is one of a large group of chemicals that were already in use when the law was passed, and so were grandfathered under it. The situation, quote, provided EPA with a very limited ability to require testing on those existing chemicals to determine if they were safe, she says. There is more than 60,000 such grandfathered chemicals, end quote. You heard me right, folks. 60,000 grandfathered chemicals, 60,000 that we just don't know the safety of, that we don't have tests on, that we actually don't know what we're supposed to do if it's dropped into a river. This is a huge story, folks. It is so huge that apparently it wasn't even mentioned on any of the Sunday talk shows. I know you're shocked. that Meet the Press and Face the Nation and Fox, they didn't cover any of this. Nope, not a mention, not one, not a single solitary mention on the Sunday talk shows. I mean, like, 300,000 people without water for several days? Oh, come on. That's not newsworthy. What, chemical storage facilities not being watched or regulated? Boring. 60,000 grandfathered chemicals that we don't know about? Yawn. I mean, Folks, this is a huge story. And it's, again, this is, like I was saying earlier, this is it's another story that's a clear warning. It's another bloody warning that even if you ignore the carbon in the air, even if you ignore the climate crisis, even if you foolishly ignore all of that in peril to yourself, to your children, to your grandchildren, even if you are stupid enough to do that, this is yet another instance where we see how truly fragile our ecosystem is. It's and how easy it is for some chemical storage facility to affect 1/3 people, just like that. And the water will probably be back soon, but we still have no idea the full effects on the soil, on the wildlife, on the region. This thing could have massive, massive effects, and we won't know the full results probably for months or years. Really, really scary stuff. I'm glad the Sunday talk shows took so much time to cover it. We'll be right back.